Hey you guys, and welcome back to another video with your boy tomjsherlock, and today I'm going to be making my way through the EUL teams that are going to be playing on Monday, the bloody 2nd of September for the start of EUL, and I'm going to be predicting where I think the teams will finish. Predicting this is always tough because over the course of doing competitive esports, I've got to know so many of the players and the teams, but for a prediction I have to put my friendships and where my heart lies, throw that away, toss that in the bin. But first of all, we're going to start with everyone's favourite team, the team that seems to garner the most support every time in EUL. It is going to be G2. Obviously, G2 have that new roster now coming in with the pickup of Loira and Blaz. So this G2 team, ever since they won SI, have seemed to struggle a little bit, it's got to be said. And I mean, all we need to do is look at that performance from G2 in the league last year. I'll bring up the table now where everyone finished last year. You can see G2 down in that 6th spot. A very underwhelming performance from G2, it must be said. And now we can take a look at how they fared in that Manchester Major as well. Well, to put it quite simply, it was a honker of a tournament for G2. They made it through the LCQs to qualify for the Manchester Major. And they lost 2-1 to Team Liquid and then went on to lose 2-1 to Fnatic. That's correct. In case you missed it somehow, you were living under a rock. G2 did go on to lose both their games and only winning 2 maps out of the 6 maps they played, losing to Liquid and Fnatic. So obviously we brought in Blaz and Loira. Changes were needed. Whether these changes are going to be successful, who knows? You lost Benja and you lost Virtue, and then in come Blaz and Loira. So we've got a French player and a Brazilian player coming in. G2, I think it's so hard to place them this season. I really do. I think I'm going to put G2 down in 6th place once more this time round. I think that team maybe is lacking a little bit of firepower, and it's also a relatively new team. They didn't do too well in the qualifications for EWC, which was the only opportunity really got to see them perform. So I'm going to put G2 down as 6 for my prediction. The next team we're going to be looking at, the boys of BDS. And well, what can we say about BDS? Before the start of the season, I said that I think BDS, I'll chop off one of my toes if they don't manage to win either EWC, one of the majors, or SI this year. They've won EWC, they made the final of the bloody Manchester Major as well, going to map 5 and losing out up against the shot BDS, Beast Coast team, I should say. But in the league, they finished with only 1 loss, winning 7 out of 8 games played, with shot upset loss to Ence. And I mean, the boys of BDS look, to be honest, absolutely bloody fantastic. I think we can all agree on that. I mean, all you need to do is look at the performance from Uzis. It was his first tournament in Riyadh for the EWC. The man with a 1.4 rating, as you can see here, plus 34 and a 76% cost. Absolutely bloody dominant. And then, I mean, you can look at BDS's performance. They played 10 maps. They won 71% of the rounds that they won. 2.8 rounds lost per map on average. A 1.3 average rating and plus 126 on the kills and deaths. BDS continuing to look like the superpower of Rainbow Six Siege, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win the league and probably go on to win the Montreal Major, which is why I'm putting down BDS as finishing number 1 in EUL this season. Our next team we're going to be looking at is Team Secret. And as you can see here, there is one addition to this Team Secret side. That is Virtue coming in for Miracle. Miracle, a fantastic player, but I think bringing in Virtue brings in that added level of experience to a relatively experienced side anyway. I mean, apart from Adrian, you've got Groovy, Savage, and also, oh my God, my brain. You've got Groovy, Savage, and Joom. Joom, an absolute gunner. He played with Team Secret Academy. They managed to win Combine, and the man was absolutely electric. Bringing in Virtue, I think, is an absolutely banging addition to the side. You get more of that experience, and he's always been a solid performer. So bringing in Virtue, an excellent acquisition. If we look at how they did in the quals to EWC, as you can see here, They managed to get the bloody better of Ence convincingly, then unfortunately going up against the superpower of BDS, losing to them, and then going on to lose to ITB, who ITB always seem to get the better of Ence. So it's sort of a fierce rivalry with those former two players of Jihu, Adrian Creed's going head to head, and Creed usually seems to come out on top. But for this stage, I am going to put the Boys of Secret down as finishing second. They finished second last year, and I think they've got what it takes to do it again. I think Virtue coming in only makes that team stronger, so we're going Secret as finishing second this year, well, this stage. Next, we come over to the Boys of ITB. I mean, with ITB, no one gave them a shot whatsoever at the start of last season. As you can see, they finished third, and I mean, as you can see here as well, nothing is changing about this ITB roster. They impressed massively last time. They also impressed almost making it through the Swiss stage in Manchester, just missing out unfortunately. They also qualified for EWC as well. But I do think out of the rosters changing, out of the 9 teams competing, 6 rosters have made changes, and ITB haven't made any changes. I don't think ITB needed to make any changes. I think they did fantastically, and they continue to do fantastically. But I think ITB might get caught out a little bit. Not to say that not making changes is a bad thing. I just think they may get caught out a little bit. I don't think they'll have a horrendous season whatsoever. I think they might still make it through in sort of not automatically, but then qualify through to the major. But I think in the league, I'm going to put them down as finishing 5th. I still think they'll have a decent season. I think it's just going to be tightly contested, and they would be my pick to make it through the playoffs as well, to make it to the Montreal Major. But I've got them as finishing 5th in the league for this one. Next, we go to the Boys of Virtus Pro, who, let's be honest, had an absolute honker of a stage 1. But Virtus Pro, they say, form is temporary, class is permanent. That's the saying I'm looking for. And I think Virtus Pro are going to bounce back big time. Obviously, one of the 3 teams that have made no changes with the likes of ITB and BDS. Virtus Pro going with the same roster. They've had a lot of time to work in this off-season. Didn't qualify for EWC. Had an absolute honking stage 1. But I just feel something in my bones about Virtus Pro. I think we can see a big redemption arc coming in for them in this stage. And I've got them down as finishing 3rd. Whether you agree or not, let me know in the comments. But I think Virtus Pro, they just have a way of getting back to their best when it matters. And it's going to matter at stage 2. If they want hopes of making SI, they've got to perform and then perform in Montreal as well. But I think I'm going to put Virtus Pro as finishing 3rd. I think that's a little bit of a rogue one, but sometimes you just have to be a little bit rogue, do you know what I mean? And then next, we're going on to Wolves. As everyone knows, Wolves loved the side of Wolves, especially Bibu's belly goals. But it's belly no more. No more belly goals, as Wolves have picked up 2 new players. As you can see here, they're going to be picking up Lasmo and Asa. So continuing with that French theme running throughout the side, getting rid of Shinket and Bibu. I mean, a lot of people may think this is sort of a downgrade to the side, but we've seen this 5 perform at their first opportunity, and they did manage to qualify through to EWC. As you can see here, beating G2 and then beating ITB as well. So I just think Wolves just have a way of making tournaments and performing well, and I think I'm finally buying into it. Normally I put Wolves down low in my predictions, but they somehow always seem to be sneaking in there, getting it over the line. I think Lasmo and Asa are fantastic pickups, and it's fantastic to see teams going for these T2 players, not just going with the sort of roundabout windmill of these T1 players who tossed off over to different sides. I love to see that T2 players getting given some love. I mean, just look at what Creeds and Adrian did last year for stage 1 for Secret and ITB. So I'm going to say Wolves finishing 4th. That's where they finished last year. I promise I'm not just copying it. I mean, I have gone BDS first, Secret 2nd and Wolves 4th, which is exactly what happened last year. But that is not swing my bias. I just think this Wolves roster has a little bit about them. And if Deadshot and Mowgli are firing on all cylinders at the same time, they can be one of the toughest teams to beat, especially in a best of 1. Next, we come to WYLDE, who also had an absolute honking stage last year, and there have been many changes made to this side. You've got Fnatic, Croxon and Leighton getting their shot in EUL T1, the first chance of T1 Siege for Fnatic and Leighton. Obviously you had Croxon playing over in Revan, but that didn't go very well as a project. And I had to say, my boy Leighton, there is no man more deserving in T2 Siege. Arguably Fnatic as well, no one more deserving. It's time for these boys to show what they're made of on the biggest stage, really. And they are being opened up with a baptism of fire, which is a little bit scary, as you can see. Tweet from the WYLDE account using my face, and I'd have to agree. Going up against BDS in your first fixture is a terrifying thing if you're a new side and you've got players new to T1. So a baptism of fire from WYLDE, but who knows? Underdog stories do happen. BDS might be taking it a little bit lightly. WYLDE to beat BDS, I mean, I wouldn't have it on my bingo card, but if it happens, it could be a turnout for the books. But WYLDE, I think with this incredibly new roster, I think they will improve from last year. So I'm putting them down as 8th, not rock bottom. But I think it just takes time for a team to click. And I think with Fnatic, Leighton, Croxon, first time playing T1 EUL, I think this team could get in better and improve, and I hope WYLDE stick with the project that they have built here, trusting in the T2 sort of pool. And I'm so happy to see Leighton coming up to T1 Siege, but I think it might be just a little bit too soon for WYLDE. That's why I'm putting them down as 8th. Next, we move over to the boys of Fnatic. And Fnatic, they haven't had the best of time ever since winning that Berlin major. So many changes to the side, so many new players coming in. As once again, we bring in some new players. We're going back to the old rogue lineup. We're bringing in Kanto Raketti. Obviously didn't work out too well for him with ITB or then with WYLDE, so he makes his way over towards Fnatic. Then you have a debut in T1 for Sarks as well, coming in, the Italian gunner. I think for Fnatic, I would just like to see a little bit of stability in this team. I think getting rid of Tyrant and Jigsaw, there's no doubting those players' quality. It just didn't work within that side. So we're bringing back Kanto and bringing a new player to T1 work. Who knows? I love the boys of Fnatic, and it pains me to say this, but I think I'm going to put Fnatic down in 9th, and that really does hurt to say that. But you know what? It is what it is. I think just so many changes. I want to see a new play style, a new approach from Fnatic, and I hope to be proved wrong, but I'm going to be putting Fnatic down as finishing 9th. So that brings us to our final team of Ence, who have made the interesting acquisition of Ence. This is actually an Ence jersey. The man gave it to me after they won the major in Jönköping. So it's a match-worn, major winning shirt, ladies and gents. I think Ence I'm going to put down as finishing 7th, exactly where they finished last year. I think bringing in Ence is a fantastic addition to that squad. I think they just lack a little bit of firepower elsewhere in that team when you compare them to some of these top fragging teams and other teams who I've placed higher in the predictions. But I think Ence is a fantastic pickup, and once again, this could be a team that could maybe surprise us. But I'm putting them down as 7th. Someone has to be put in 7th, but I think Ence a fantastic addition to that team. But that is going to be my final prediction. I'll bring up what I've predicted here, and we'll run through it one more time. So we've got BDS first, Secret 2nd, VP 3rd, 4th I'm going Wolves, 5th ITB, 6th G2, 7th Ence, 8th WYLDE, and then 9th we're going with Fnatic. So those are my final predictions. Let me know what you think of them. And I've just forgotten as well, we've got a few words from Patball here, letting us know how he thinks the season's going to go for WYLDE as well. So we'll let that play now.
Hey guys, Patball here from WYLDE. You might have seen coming into the season we made a lot of roster changes, and we're doing this with the hopes of building a strong foundation for the future. I know people have questioned a couple of the changes we've made, but trust me, we know what we're doing. This is a really strong roster we built. And for this season, as always, we're gunning for the top. It's a rookie season for a lot of the players on our team, so who knows what can happen, but we're competitors. We're always aiming for the top.
So I've only just watched that Packball video myself, and fuck it, let's put Wild up top spot, baby. Rookie season, underdog story, who knows what can happen, but that video's inspired me with confidence. Up the boys of Wild. Go on, Leighton, pop off and show us what you're made of. But let me know what you think of the predictions. I'll be watch partying all the EUL games later today, so get around it, get amongst it, don't be shy, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye bye.